Well, welcome to episode 8 of Life of Leadership in Lorain County. I got a special guest today, Bobby Campana. Bobby, how are you?
Hello, Robert.
Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to my sponsors. First of all, BCT Alarms. BCT Alarms, owned by Brian Jankowski. Brian does a good job, or an excellent job, of helping people with their home security, also with business security, fire security, all of that. Brian's got a great team, a great staff. He gets in, gets out quick, does the right job. And also want to give a shout out to WOBL, WDLW. WOBL is AM 1320 and 107.7 FM. WDLW AM 1380 and 98.9 FM. Renee and Gary Tillett are the owners of that radio station. I want to thank them for the support that they've given me and the support that they're given to Life of Leadership of Lorain County. Bobby, second week in a row where I interviewed somebody that just came back from Florida. It's not fair. You have an awesome tan, and I am Haley Bob right now.
Well, it's good to be back home. It's nice to go away, but it's always better to come home.
I know that feeling. So before we actually started to record this, you and I were chatting, and you were talking to me about something real interesting, and I want to start with that. So you wrote a book. Why don't you tell us the name of the book, how people could get it, and what the purpose of the book is?
Well, the name of the book is A Father's Guide to a Joyful, Successful, and Significant Life. It's simple, just not easy. And the purpose of the book was to chronicle in a very simple format, all the life lessons that I've learned, all the things I've learned from reading, from watching videos, podcasts, my mentors, my role models, and said, how can I condense this down into the absolute simplest form and make it an heirloom for my family? So I wanted to be able to put something together that, when you first think about it, I could make it this thick because there's so much. And I said, no, I have got to make it as simple as possible. So, I came up with something that I call the toolkit for life, and 10 simple tools that I am encouraging my family, my children, my grandchildren, future generations to become master craftsmen or master craft women of these 10 tools. And if you do, the likelihood of living a joyful, successful, and significant life are really high. So I lay it out for them. I'm not going to be around forever. I want to be able to impact future generations. I encourage all of them to make it better as time goes on, edit it, and pass it on. But it's really an heirloom. I never intended it to be available to the public, but through the publishing house that I used, they put it on Amazon. So if you Google, or if you go on Amazon and you put my name in, or put in a Father's Guide to a Joyful, Successful, and Significant Life, you should find it. But anyway, it was just from the heart to share, with others. So when people ask me for advice, one thing I always handed out was something I cut out of the Investor Business Daily about 35 years ago, called the 10 Secrets to Success. And that was like the beginning of my aggregation of wisdom. And I was like blown away that they took thousands of successful people and they condensed it down to the 10 secrets to success. So I memorized those, carried a piece, with me so I could hand them out. So whenever anybody asked for advice, I'd go into my wallet and I'd simply hand them the 10 secrets to success. And it's just amazing how simple it was. So then, I continued to cut out success articles, continued to, build my library of wisdom. And I've got boxes actually in the room right next door. I've got boxes of articles of success. And, I've read hundreds, if not thousands of books. And I said, no, I just want to create my own, heirloom. And that's the purpose of that book.
That's that's amazing. You talk about forethought. You talk about, planning. Going into the next and the next generation. That's I commend you for that. I think that is absolutely awesome. Thanks for sharing that, because that's information I think that everybody needs to hear. Um, so let's back up a little bit. Talk a little bit about you, where you came from. You went to Admiral King. Just some of your previous life prior to setting a course for success.
Yeah, I'll make it short on this side, but very interesting, I think, is that my father was an immigrant from Italy, came over when he was a few years old, and he was a very mechanically inclined young go-getter, and ended up working in the shipyards in Lorain, and became a master mechanic, welder, electrician, burner. I mean, the guy could do it all. And he actually got 7 deferments from going to the war because he was so valuable in the shipyards, because he devised a way to hang plate like no one had ever devised, an incentive-based plate hanging methodology that they were just knocking it out. And he negotiated something with the superintendent of the shipyards to have an incentive program for the teams of plate hangers that he ran. And then ultimately his brother Larry joined, his brother Baldo joined, and my dad said, I can't take these deferments anymore. He was the oldest, and he joined. And my dad became a hard hat diver in the Navy. He volunteered, signed up to do that. So he became, the Men of Honor, the movie Men of Honor, Cuba Gooding.
Yep.
That was PC Campana. Patsy was a master diver, learned how to weld underwater, burn underwater. A lot of people don't know you can do those things. And anyway, during the war, met my mom in Tacoma, Washington. She grew up on a farm in Wyoming, and she and her family moved to Tacoma during the war, right after she graduated from high school, to work in the shipyards in Tacoma, because my grandparents were told that they had great jobs and could make a lot of money. And while in the shipyards in Tacoma, my dad's ship was deploying. My grandparents were on that ship finishing it. And by the grace of God, my mom went to a Navy dance the first day in town, and my dad went to the dance. They met and they corresponded during the war, and then he found her back in Powell, Wyoming, after the war, and they got married. And what's significant about that, Bob, is that my dad was just always a go-getter, and my mom was always the number one cheerleader, and they always had a dream that someday they'd have their own business. And my mom and dad moved 18 times around the country. I was the 17th move. Me and my brother Pat were born in Weirton, West Virginia, and that was the 17th move. And the 18th move was moving back to Lorain, because they were just tired of moving. And my dad and mom decided that someday we're going to start our own business. So I was born in 1959, moved back a week after I was born, and their dream was to start their own business. So my dad had grown to the vice president of operations of a big electrical construction company. Thus, his moves all over the country doing big projects. And in 1968, when I was 9 years old, he started PC Campana Electric at the age of 48 years old. So imagine, a lot of people don't know that Patsy Campana was 48 years old when he started PC Campana. So I grew up, around, a dynamic duo of, my dad was that go-getter. My mom was anchoring the ship at home, and she was his number one supporter. And when he finally pulled the trigger and told his employer that he was going to go on his own, they begged him not to. They're going to make him a partner. And he just said, no, I'm going to do it. And he gave him 2 more years because it was a critical juncture for their company. And when he finally did pull the trigger, they showered him with appreciation, starting his own company. So we started as an electrical construction company. And my mom surprised my dad with a very significant amount of money that she squirreled away. And I'm talking about really squirreling away pennies, right? It's like tens of thousands of dollars. None of us know for sure how much. All I know is my dad made sure we knew it was significant. And she surprised him with a checkbook or a savings book and said, Pat, I knew this day was coming. Here's what we've saved. And that helped really elevate the company. And soon thereafter, Bob, my dad was blessed with the opportunity to become the licensee of technology out of Europe, out of Germany, to repair ingot molds and slag pots in steel mills. And my dad knew steel mills like the back of his hand because he had done so many big electrical construction projects. Thus, PC Campana went from an electrical construction company to now a service provider inside steel mills. And as a young boy, I'm growing up, from 9 years old on, just watching a company evolve before my eyes. I had a front row seat to the spectacular growth of PC Campana. So, I've just had, I can't say enough about my childhood in Lorain, growing up in Lorain, the metropolis that it was, the shipyards, the steel mill, the Ford plant, you name it. And then all the small businesses that supported all the major industry. So all my friends, their dads were managers at steel mills or Ford plants. They were laborers, they were whatever. Everybody was gainfully employed and opportunity was everywhere. So, my eyes were wide open as a kid going, oh my God, anything's possible. And I wanted a part of that. So, luckily for me, I was exposed to some really, really awesome people. I'll call them role models. And I said, man, one day I'd like to be like Stan Piger, the president of Lorain National Bank. Man, one day I'd like to be like Billy Rowland, that cowboy real estate developer. Someday I'd like to be like Bill Starbuck, a real estate developer. So long story short, I didn't know how or what, but I gravitated to these people. I let them know that I thought they were awesome. I let them know that I admired them. And not everybody, but a lot of them, actually 8 people, became my mentors. So I've had some world-class mentors because I asked. I asked for help. And, one thing a lot of people do not know is that from my experience, what I believe to be true is that the more successful someone is, the more willing they are to help. And most people are afraid to ask those people for help because they think they're too successful. I might be embarrassed. They may say no. And I can say that I've never been told no when I've asked for advice. Now I've been told no indirectly that no, you can't be my, mentee. I don't have time. Maybe the relationship didn't work. The chemistry didn't work. But for 8 different people outside of my mom and dad, it did work. And it changed my life. It's pretty cool. I mean, growing up in Lorain, here it was the melting pot of the world. And I had access to all these awesome people on top of the experience of growing up in a, blue collar town. And, you better be polite. You better do the right things or you get your ass kicked. And you'll learn that you better do it right the next time, right? So I had an advantage leaving Lorain to do business outside of Lorain, to know that the way we do it in Lorain, we're at a different level in Lorain County than a lot of people. And I truly had a distinct advantage outside of Lorain County when I was conducting business.
Yeah, so these names, Stan Piger, Billy Rowland. Billy Rowland's name has been mentioned several times on this podcast. So there's quite a few individuals that had a relationship with Billy. So his name is talked about a lot. On last week's episode with Tony Galla, we talked about some of the history, the rich history of Lorain County, and we talked about we had the Lorain Assembly Plant, we had the Ohio Assembly Plant for Ford, we had Fisher Body. We had the steel mill, U.S. Tube. We had our friend with John Steinbrenner with Amship.
George Steinbrenner.
George Steinbrenner. Sorry about that. George Steinbrenner with Amship, and that was a huge base for you is what I'm hearing, right? All of these relationships and these people and everything going on.
Well, what I think the most important thing is that you looked around and there were all kinds of successful people out there of all makes and, all walks of life. And so many success stories from all the families that you got to know, where somebody started out as a laborer and they worked their way up to leading a company or leading a division or starting their own company. So everywhere you looked, there were successful people. And what I think the biggest takeaway, and probably the greatest blessing my parents showed me was, that it's everybody thinks it just happens, and it doesn't just happen. And there's a lot of failure on the way to success, and you fail forward. And some people talk about, how do you identify or how do you define success? I think it was Mandela. I think it was Mandela, but I've heard it so many times. Don't measure me by my success, what your perceived success of where I'm at today. Measure me by how many times I got up after I got knocked down. Measure me by my resilience. And when I got up, dusted off, and just said, I'm going to put my foot in front of the other foot and just keep marching forward. And I saw so many people grind it out. A lot of people said overnight success, and there is no such thing as overnight success. So, Bob, one of the coolest quotes ever in business for me and in life in general, Charlie Munger, he's Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway. He says the eighth wonder of the world is a daily, dogged, incremental progress. Now, who's willing to do daily, dogged, incremental progress? If you are, then you're destined for success. If you're willing to know that you're going to get your butt kicked and you're going to get knocked down, and you're willing to get up and put a foot in front of the other, you're going to be successful. And then if you wrap good people around you, you're ensured success because they're going to help you get there. So, that's what I did. And that's what our family did. And, my dad asked for help from a lot of people, and he didn't do it on his own. And in addition to that, he was very fortunate. He had some lucky breaks, but you got to be in the batter's box, swing to get a hit.
Man, you're expanding my mind. You've made so many comments, so many statements. You're touching on everything. But let's start with that Charlie Munger quote, and drop on Sunday. On Sunday, you sent me an email about discipline, right? So, and that's kind of sounds like what Munger's talking about there, right? Discipline.
Yeah, it's discipline's the glue that holds it all together, right? So you start with a dream. You very pull out to 30,000 feet. You start with a dream. You get one shot at life. What do you want your life to be like, right? And just dream big, and then kind of start zooming in on who has that kind of life and what do they do? How'd they get there? Start studying successful people that you admire. They don't have to be your role model. They could, your mentor. They could just be a role model, right? I've had so many role models, and I still do. I'll give you an example of a great role model for me who became a dear friend, never a mentor, but a role model, Roy Church. Roy Church is one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. And Roy was too busy to be a mentor to too many people. I'm sure he's a mentor to some. He was never a mentor to me, but he was a role model. And I just watched his energy. I watched his humility. I watched, how he was tenacious. He talk about a guy with daily, dogged, incremental progress, right? Talk about a rising tide lifts all ships. But without discipline, you can't get there. So if you think it's going to come easy, you're wrong. But if you're willing to be disciplined and follow the steps other successful people take, there's nothing you can't do.
It's great that you mentioned him as well. So okay, discipline. Let's break it down. What kind of routine does Bobby Campana have on a daily basis that shows his discipline?
Well, that's interesting, Bob. You asked that. In my book, I put down what I do daily, what I do weekly, what I do quarterly, what I do annually, what I do biannually. So I put a list of all that stuff, so I don't have it in front of me, but I can tell you, what I do every day. I get up and I brush my teeth. All right. I read scripture every day. I work out every day. I tell my wife I love her every day. I make the bed every day and I make it perfect, so I read every day. I try to get better every day. Then I get into my weekly stuff. Oh, hey, Bob, what do you do weekly? Well, I go to church every week. So I go through all that. Like I review my goals quarterly. I rewrite my goals and my, mission statement annually. Every 2 years, I want to travel outside the country. So I'm very methodical in my thought process. I've been a goal writer my whole life. So I dreamed about how I wanted to live my life and what I wanted to do with my family. And I started putting it down on paper. And every year between Thanksgiving and New Year's, I sit down, I look at last year's and I say, okay, what do I want for next year or in the future? And I redraft it. I redraft my mission statement, kind of just fine tune it and rewrite my goals and then my action steps to achieve my goals. And I lay that out in the book on how I do it. But I've been a goal setter my whole life. And probably about 20 years ago, I gave a talk on goal setting at a big conference, and the other speaker at the conference said, "Hey, Bob, I really appreciated your presentation there, but I'm kind of surprised that you didn't mention anything about your prioritized values." And I said, "Rob, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, you didn't say anything about prioritized values." I said, "Can you explain further?" And he said, "Well, Bob, what do you value?" And I said, "I value all kinds of things." He said, "I didn't ask you that." He said, "What do you value most? What are your prioritized values?" And I said, I guess I can't answer that right now, but you know what, Rob? I'm going to have a good answer for you moving forward. So this guy called me out. It was a blessing. And from that day on, I've had my prioritized values. It's my faith, it's my family, it's my health, it's my freedom, it's my integrity, and then travel, sixth. And in that order, descending order, that's how I write my goals. So when I first start writing my goals, it's on my faith. People go, "Well, how do you write goals about faith?" It's very simple. You pray every day. Well, I pray every day. Whenever I run into any challenge or opportunity, I have a simple prayer. I pray, "Come, Holy Spirit." I go to Mass every week. I serve as a Eucharistic minister. I support Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I do a lot of things. Those are in my goals. And people go, how do you write goals on integrity? That's pretty easy. Jesus is my judge, and every decision I make, I know he's watching and he knows what I'm doing, and I'm held accountable. I will not make a decision that I'm not going to be held accountable to him. Right then and there. It's pretty easy to make decisions that way. But it's interesting after you have a conversation with people and they wonder, well, how can you write goals on freedom? It's very simple. I don't want to be broke, so I'm not going to make a decision that's going to bankrupt me or my family. And I don't want to be in jail, so I'm not going to make a decision that's going to put me in jail. Well, what do you mean? How could you be put in jail with one decision? Drive drunk and hit somebody and see if you end up in jail. Make a bad decision in business and you're bankrupt. So, it's real simple. Again, getting back to it's simple, just not easy. What are your prioritized values? List them, prioritize them in order. Then write goals for each one, and then write action steps for each one. And then the other thing, something in my ear here, I don't know if something happened, but the other thing I do, Bob, is I'm held accountable because I share my written prioritized values, mission statement, and goals with my family every year. Oh God, here comes Dad's year-end report. Right? So I send it to them because I want them to know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and who I am.
Man, so awesome. So you gather the family around the table? Do you go out to eat somewhere? It's just
No, I just email it to them.
all right.
And, I know at different ages, I've been doing this for a long time. At different ages, it's going to make different, impact. But all my kids write their goals. I don't hover over them. Did you write your goals? I don't do that. If I wasn't here, I couldn't do that. So I'm not going to do it now. That's why I put that book together. If you guys want any advice, hey, go read my book because I wrote it for you right out of my heart. It's a father's guide, right? It's a love on paper.
Very, very awesome. All right. So let's jump. So Campana Capital, right? That's the name of one of your I don't even know how many companies you have, but I'm familiar with Campana
Well,
Capital.
yeah. So I'm one of six, children to Patsy and Janae Campana, and I was intimately involved in PC Campana and related companies. Before my dad passed away, after my dad passed away, and then I wanted to have a business of my own instead of being partners with, 5 siblings. And I started Campana Development, which morphed into Campana Capital. So we do real estate development, we do investing, venture capital investing, private equity investing. I've had a lot of experience in management and operations. So because of my diverse background, I've been blessed, with a view on a lot of different industries. So that's what we do. And PC Campana is still a very viable company. My brother David, who's the oldest in the family, runs PC Campana, and they're focused mainly on steel mill products for the hot end of steel mills and a little bit in the foundry industry, but predominantly steel mills. But our history was very diverse in fabrication, machining, pipe, tubing. But anyway, today I'm focused on real estate development from residential, industrial, commercial to private equity investment and venture capital investment.
Awesome. So again, you've given us a lot of color, but I'm going to ask a specific question. Do you identify your leadership style as being anything particular? Do you have a leadership style, or is it a way of life or a thought? What do you have going on there?
Well, I would say, my leadership style is, it all starts with what I call the who. And it's one of my tools in the toolkit. It's the who you surround yourself with. So a priority to me is that everyone on my staff, on my team, partners, people we invest in, if it doesn't start with integrity, high level integrity, we don't do it. And it doesn't matter how good the deal is, we're not getting involved unless it's high integrity. The other one is an abundance mindset instead of a finite mindset where we can create value. It's not about carving up the pie. It's about making the pie bigger. So, it's an integrity play. It's an abundance play. And then it's it's a lot about enjoying who I work with and, who that I invest with. So I basically go from integrity, then the mindset of abundance that, do you believe that you can create value versus trying to divvy up the pie and take your piece? Or do you want a rising tide lifts all ships and, the piece you have, just grow it. If you want more, let's all lock arms and grow it. And the other thing is if you're selfish, I don't want anything to do with you. If you're selfless, you definitely got a shot. But if somebody's selfish, I've been around too many of those people, and I choose not to be.
So, an interesting thing, and you said it a couple of times. That's why I'm going to bring it up. So I interviewed Mike Elder, the head coach of Avon football, a while back, and I asked him, how do you define success? And he gave me this definition of success that is really, it permeates what you're talking about as well. He said, Bob, my definition of success is doing what I love to do with the people that I love to do it with. That was his definition of success. It sounds like you have the same mindset.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love it. Well, Bob, I'm glad you said mindset, because mindset is another one of my tools in my toolkit. So I talk about another thing that I do every day. In my prayer that I say every day for good health and the fruits of the Holy Spirit for me and my family, also bless us with a mindset of GHED-MCL. And, I make it simple. I like a lot of things, GHED-MCL, and that stands for gratitude, humility, enthusiasm, discipline, meekness when in a position of power, and become a great listener. So, I put that in that book on purpose. That's my dream for my mindset. That's what I want. Every time I go into something, I always pray for the, come Holy Spirit, and give me a mindset of GHED-MCL, and that I'm prepared going into an opportunity or trying to solve a problem or whatever. But mindset is huge, right? So anybody out there, these young kids that are thinking about writing a mission statement, prioritize values, written goals on your prioritized values, and then a mindset. What do you want your mindset to be? And mine is GHED-MCL.
You bring up a word that I've heard, and I want to hear your take on this word. The word is meekness. Meekness. So talk to me about that word, meekness.
Oh, I love it. It certainly doesn't mean weakness. Meekness is calmness in a position of power. The analogy that I was taught was you take a racehorse, a stallion, and you insert the bit, the bridle pulled over its head, and a 120-pound jockey can control a 2,000-pound stallion, because the stallion accepted the bit and is willing to be led. So it's power under control, right? That's how I think of meekness. It is the furthest thing from weakness. It's awesome. It's an attribute, most great leaders have, not all, but some of the greatest leaders I know, were meek. If they had to put the hammer down, they could, but they usually chose to maintain control, and meekness is a very powerful trait. And I'm not saying I am an expert at it, but I certainly view, through that lens of trying to be.
So how do we develop that trait?
Mindfulness. If it's good, being mindful of the fact that it's worked really well for a lot of people over history. If you study it, you'll learn about a lot of people who've invoked that with a lot of very powerful results. So it's a great trait. Anybody can blow their top, right? Anybody can be, act like a tough guy. Anybody can shout and scream. But then when you're cool and calm and you're rational about the situation, so I pray for that every day, because, allow me to be meek when in a position of power, and not authoritarian. I've been around too many authoritarian people, and that's not my style. That works, that pushes me away versus attracting me. A meekness attracts me. Somebody who's blowing their stack and acting like a tough guy, that's just not my style.
So you're gonna give me another spot to wiggle into, all right? So communication is important. I like to say that that everybody communicates, but few connect, right? So if we really take a look at relationships and the fact that we are relationship oriented people, and you listed the names of people that have helped you on your path. You've talked about the fact, just ask for help. Great leaders are willing to help. All right. So we relationships are important. In order for us to be the best version of ourselves, we need to find help, because we're not good at everything, but we have to learn to connect. Now, the GHEDMCL, the mindset, getting that mindset, it looks to me as this is a great spirit or to be in order to help you connect to those people that you want to connect with. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yep. Bob, the most important, decision I made relative to communications and relationships in my life was taking a Dale Carnegie class. It was in the mid 80s. I wanted to get better. And I kept seeing these ads about Dale Carnegie, and read about it and heard about that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I actually walked into a class, like an introduction class, looked around the room and thought, this isn't for me, on Rockside Road. And I just kind of thought, man, this is kind of corny, and walked out. And I got in my truck and I sat there and I said, I got to go back in. Thank God I did, because it's the best thing I ever did. I call it emotional intelligence. Dale Carnegie gives you emotional intelligence. It gives you human relation techniques, but truly it teaches you emotional intelligence with these techniques. And then it allows you to become a more comfortable public speaker, a better public speaker. So I was a graduate. My wife, Lori, is a graduate. All three of my children are graduates. My son-in-law, Greg, just become a graduate. I'm hoping, all my whole entire family becomes graduates of Dale Carnegie. I have nothing to do with Dale Carnegie other than the fact that I know what it meant for me personally and professionally. But it's in my book that as long as Papa's alive, all my grandchildren will take Dale Carnegie, and it's that important. So Mary Lee McCaskill out of Bay Village is the regional director of Dale Carnegie. And anybody who owns a business, they should put their leadership through the Dale Carnegie program. I put dozens and dozens of direct reports through that Dale Carnegie class. All I can say is it was the best investment I ever made. Back then it was probably $1,000. It might be $1,800 now. It's not an expense, it's an investment. How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of the, if not the number one self-help book, out there. It's been around for over 100 years, and it's just amazing. So I give a lot of credit to my experience in Dale Carnegie, and I keep suggesting people ask for advice. It's in my book, and also, hey, if you want to do something meaningful, take Dale Carnegie, and then come talk to me afterwards and let me know what you think. Almost, 99% of them, some people go in because they, I've had some employees that I made do it that just didn't like it. I didn't like the idea that I made them do it. But 99% of the people that take it, look back on it as a huge win for them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of times on LinkedIn, I see you make comments about Dale Carnegie. When somebody graduates from Dale Carnegie, I see you send them a personal message. And here's the thing too, all right? Because Bobby, I've known you for a couple of years now, and I consider you to be a great leader, and I consider you to be really active in the community. I consider you to be a man of faith. It seems like every good event that I go to, I see you there. I know that you meet with mayors around the county. I see you're trying to raise up the county. And here's the cool thing that I see that I want to thank you for. I see these personal notes that you give to people after you meet them, and you don't just click a thumbs up on LinkedIn. You give a special message. So you send a great message by doing that. You're living life the way that you want to live it, and you're bringing others into your environment. So that's huge. So thank you for that. You're really a you help some of us guys trying to become better leaders when we see what you're doing.
Thank you, Bob. I'm glad you brought up a thing about notes. That's another one of my tools in my toolkit, handwritten notes. I write over 100 handwritten notes per year. I have a file each year that I make a copy of the note, put it in the file, 2022 handwritten note file, right? And I put over 100, usually 130 to 150 handwritten notes, hand addressed. My wife gave me the idea from her boss from work, 40 years ago. And I've been doing it ever since. And people go, I don't have time to write 100 notes. And I'm like, it's 2 a week. It takes me 10 minutes. Are you kidding me? And every time I get a personal note, I'm telling you right now, I read that personal note no less than 5 times and probably 8 to 10 times before I put it away. And I leave it out. Somebody sends me a personal note. I don't just read it and put it away. I put it up on the wall. I put it somewhere I can look at it. I reread it, and if it's sincere, which, I don't write notes just to, try to win somebody over. I write it from the heart, put it on paper. Congratulations, sympathy, encouragement. I look for opportunities to do that because I feel good about doing it because these people deserve it. And at the same time, I know what it means to them. So I would suggest anybody, looking to make a big difference, get your own personal stationery. Mine's a simple little card, Bob Campana on it. And, send handwritten notes and watch magic happen.
Yeah, that's, I remember walking into the mayor of Sheffield Village's office, and I saw on his corkboard a handwritten note from you. That was pretty cool. So here, let me ask you this question. I live down the street. I live in Sheffield Village, but down the street from Lorain Community College. It seems like every time I go by Lorain Community College, your name hits me in the face. So what's that part of Lorain County all about? What's your involvement there?
Well, when Roy Church showed up at the college, I was a very impressionable, young executive, and immediately identified this guy as a unique leader, and he impressed, not only me, but obviously everybody he came into contact with, including my dad. And we were supportive of the college, became even more supportive because of Roy's enthusiasm and his vision and his inclusiveness. He included it was a rising tide lifts all ships mentality with Roy. So, we chose to support his initiatives. And one of them was, after us going through the terrible 81, 82 downturn in Lorain County, how can we have a vision 2020, right? Vision 2000, and then a vision 2010, vision 2020. And anyway, Roy would reach out and ask for support for different initiatives. And we always, stood up with a lot of other people and supported them. One special one was when Roy, in the late 90s, maybe around 99, 2000, he approached the family about supporting a new initiative. It was kind of in concert with the partnership program that he initiated, which is one of the first, if not the first in the country, to have other college degrees available on the campus, where he wanted to have an engineering degree available through Toledo University. And we supported his initiative for job creation to have the Campana Center for Technology built on the campus. And then it morphed into the ideation and innovation facility with another effort for us to kind of raise the bar. So I would encourage anybody to go online and, Google the Campana Ideation Center at Lorain County Community College. Very few people know that we have one of 2 fab labs in the world that is called a super fab lab by MIT out of Boston. We're the only fab lab in North America and only one of 2 fab labs in the world. And it's one part of the ideation center where you can, if you can think it, you can make it, either on a computer, on a laser printer, on a, whatever. If you can think it, you can make it. And so anyway, I would encourage educators, everybody in Lorain County, reach out to Randy Fortin, who's the executive director in residence at the Campana Center. If you haven't seen the center, you're missing out. You're missing an opportunity for your kids. Go out there, tour it, and then schedule a bus trip out there and get your kids out there and let them get their hands on some technology. It's a resource for the community. It's available to everybody. It's free. And it's sitting there waiting for you. Now they do instructive classes there. You have, college courses taking place there, but there's so many other things there that most people have no idea about. With COVID winding down now, it's time for people to get out and start exploring again. And the Campana Ideation Center is a gold mine for all residents. I don't care how old or how young, but especially for these kids. Get them out there so they can get their hands on technology.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's that is again, I did not know that existed. I didn't know what a fab lab was. So, we need to get that story out. So thanks for that.
Hey, Bob, I'll suggest a challenge here.
Okay.
Because you're doing this meaningful work. You're trying to lift leaders up in our community. I commend you for that. So I was immediately said yes when you asked me. But you yourself, now in this very impressive, important leadership role, go out there, meet with Randy, get a tour, and come back and let your audience know, what you saw. It's pretty easy for a biased Bob Campana to say how great the Ideation Center is. And it's not our center, it's our community center. And if you can just give them your perspective after you tour it, I think you're gonna open a lot of eyes. And the most important thing is we want to get a lot of feet in there, because my dad was a great inventor. He had a couple dozen patents. He was just a great thinker and tinkerer. Well, I could see a young Patsy Campana, 8 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, going to the Campana Ideation Center and making something. I got an idea. Can you help me? And then they'll help you commercialize it. They'll help you from any idea all the way up to a commercialization. Imagine that. So if there's anybody out there at any age that has an idea, hey, just sign up online, go talk to somebody. They're going to roll the carpet out for you. And they want to create jobs. And by commercializing ideas into products or services, that's how you do it.
Challenge accepted. I will reach out today. As a matter of fact, I will reach out today. I will get a hold of Randy, and I will get over there. And you're encouraging me, because I'm thinking I've got five kids. I'm taking my 5 kids with me, because I think that's something that they need to be exposed to, because I think that they're great at getting out in the community and telling stories as well. So all 5 of my kids live in Lorain County. Which is awesome, right? We want to keep that generation here as much as we can, because we know we can be as great or greater than we once were.
Get a personal tour from Randy Fortin. I
will do that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the life of an entrepreneur. What would your advice be for an individual that wanted to take on the role of becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, it goes back to what I call the who. That's one of my tools in the toolkit for life. And if you really want to be an entrepreneur, you should model others who've done it, study them, read about them, meet with ones that you can, surround yourself with counsel, with people who've done it, and dream, put it on paper, put down what you think the action steps are, and then get advice. So surround yourself with, all the resources. Lorain County Community College and many other organizations in Northeast Ohio are waiting for your call. All you have to do is call if you have an idea. But in addition to the college and Jumpstart and these other organizations that'll help you, go to these folks that have already done it. Somebody that is in the field that you're interested in, and either model after them, ask them for advice, seek them out as mentors. But it's about the who. And then, Bob, from my experience, most people, my analogy is, it's walking out on a wharf, and you're walking out to the end of the wharf. And to become an entrepreneur, you need to jump in the water, and you just gotta swim, right? And most people get to the edge, and they just can't pull the trigger. Well, if you've put your thoughts on paper, if you've shared them with others and got feedback, you fine-tuned it, and you've shared it with others and got more feedback and fine-tuned it, and finally you got to the point where people are saying, hey, this looks like it has legs. It looks like, people are giving you some encouragement. Then get to the end of the wharf and jump in. But don't think you're alone, because your life rafts are all around you. It's the who. It's the Lorain County Community College. It's the Jumpstart. It's the mentors. It's the role models. It's the family members. It's your investors. Don't think you're alone, but make sure you're surrounded by the right who. And then just jump in and go. I've had a lot of people go to the edge and they just can't pull the trigger, but the life vests are really just floating in the water waiting for you. And that's all the people you've already asked for opinions and feedback and advice. And, they're just waiting for you to get in. They can't help you if you don't get in the water. You got to swim, man.
I love the analogy. I love it. I love it. Let's break a little bit, because I want to hear about this for a little bit. So your wife Lori and your sister-in-law Lori, spelled differently, have this nonprofit organization where they provide shoes to the needy. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to let you talk about that.
Yeah, my wife Lori was watching Oprah one day, 15 years ago, I think, and she saw Stephon Marbury, the basketball player, on the show, talking about how all kids want cool shoes, and he wanted cool shoes when he's growing up, and his mother couldn't afford them, and he's now a multimillionaire, and he wanted to make cool shoes affordable, and so he went to the same places that Nikes were made, and Adidas and all those things in Asia, and he contracted to have the Starbury shoes made and sell them at some sporting goods store, I forget the name of it right now, for like $19.99. And Lori was just right in the heart, hit her right in the heart. She's going, so her and my sister-in-law Lori talked about it, and they say, hey, let's raise some money and let's go buy some of these shoes. So long story short, I think it's 12 to 13, 14 years now, maybe 15. We've been, collectively as a family, providing shoes to children in Lorain County, Boys and Girls Club, now directly to schools in Western Cuyahoga County. And we've given away, I think, over 35,000 pairs of shoes. So when you think about that, that means you've measured feet, you've fundraised, you've bought shoes. Now they're Nikes and Adidas and all that kind of stuff. And you've received them and logistically distributed them. So it's not as simple as saying, if you try to get, I dare somebody, go put 100 pairs of shoes in your car and see how fast that fills up your car. So when you've got a 500 pairs of shoe giveaway, it's not a carload, it's a truckload, right? And anyway, every year now we're giving away a couple thousand pairs of shoes, if not, almost 3,000 pairs of shoes a year away. And our families, between the Bows and the Campanas, we underwrite all the soft costs, so 100% of the donations go to buying shoes. It's an awesome program. And it's all based on giving the kid dignity, a new pair of shoes. Man, these shoe giveaways, we put them on the kids, and, as soon as they get them on, the little kids are running around. They're faster than they used to be because they got a new pair of shoes on. But it just gives them dignity, and it's a really cool program. We're very proud of my wife and my sister-in-law.
Yeah, that's great. I've been a witness to the distribution and to see some great things that have happened. So those of us in the community just appreciate the fact that you guys are out there doing that. So we're right up against our time limit here. So I'm going to thank our sponsors one last time. And when I'm done with that, Bob, I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to just ask for your closing thoughts. What you would like to say to close this out. So I'll be back with you in a minute. So once again, I'd like to thank Brian Jankowski and his company BCT Alarm Services for sponsoring this show. Brian is a huge supporter of the county. He serves on the board at the Lorain County Chamber of Commerce, which is another organization that supports Lorain County. So if you have the need for some alarms in your house, in your business, give Brian a call. Security services, all kinds of things. He's got neat little gadgets. I know that I can from down here in my my hideaway in my studio, I can open and close the garage door with my cell phone. That's a cool technology. If you need something like that, give Brian a call. And then also Gary and Renee Talat, WOBL AM 1320 and 107.7 FM, WDLW AM 1380 and 98.9 FM. Gary and Renee are huge supporters of the community. They've got they have football game. The football game of the week is on the radio station. They did basketball games during the basketball season. Gary does everything that he can to carry on the tradition of the Wilbur family and support the county as much as possible. And I'd like to thank them for all the support they've given me. And the Morning Journal has given me a lot of support as well. They gave me a full page ad a couple of weeks ago, and they also give me the masthead every couple of weeks or so to support this this mission that we're on to organically grow leadership in Lorain County. So, Bobby, we're gonna close with you. Give us some of your sage advice.
Well, I just say, Bob, thank you for what you're doing. I think this is very meaningful, what you're sharing here with our community, and I want to thank our community. I am who I am today because of growing up in Lorain County, playing sports, growing up around all the ethnicity and all the lessons learned. I'm so grateful for the example that my parents were, hard work, dedication, loyalty, and all my mentors and role models. So I'd like to just encourage everyone to understand, something I want to share. A lot of people have not heard this, but, I've read it many times over and I refer to it a lot. Thomas Edison referred to the levels of intellect, the descending levels of intellect, starting with smart at number 5. And you go from smart to intelligent to brilliant to genius to simple. Okay. Simple meaning the highest level of intelligence, right? Or intellect. So just know that it's really simple, not easy. Simple doesn't mean it's not simple and easy are two different things, right? Simple means not complicated. Whatever you want to achieve, you can achieve it just by observing those who have already done it. Model after them, study them, seek out wise counsel, surround yourself with the right people. Keep it simple. Write your goals, write your mission statement, write your prioritized values, write your mindset, and then go reach out for your dream. Walk to the end of the dock. Know that there's life jackets out there waiting for you if you need them. Jump in and swim. I wish you the best.
Bobby, thanks so much. We're going to end on that. That's brilliant. Thank you so